everybody. Welcome to the next installment of Journey Through John, where we're taking a bite-sized chunk of Scripture, having a brief discussion, and then a challenge or encouragement at the end, with the hopes that this can be a resource for you to jump into your Word on a consistent basis. Yesterday we started the diving in of John chapter 20, and we've been talking about how Jesus is risen from the grave and the news is beginning to spread. And we talked a little bit yesterday about the joy that we should have in that, and sometimes we have to take time to really focus in on Jesus in the midst of the chaos going on. Because for the disciples and those following Jesus, it was chaos at this time. They had basically turned their life upside down to follow Jesus, and all of a sudden, he's gone. He's dead. And so they're dealing with the challenges that come from that, and then all of a sudden there's news that he's not in the tomb anymore. And so we pick up the story and continue on with that conversation. Verses 11 through 18 of chapter 20. Here we go. It says, "But Mary stood weeping outside the tomb, and as she wept, she stooped to look at into the tomb, and she saw two angels in white sitting where the body of Jesus had lain, one at the head and one at the feet. And they said to her, 'Woman, why are you weeping?' And she said to them, 'They have taken away my Lord, and I do not know where they have laid him.' Having said this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing, but she did not know that it was Jesus. Jesus said to her, 'Woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you seeking?' Supposing him to be the gardener, she said to him, 'Sir, if you've carried him away, tell me where you've laid him, and I will take him away.' Jesus said to her, 'Mary.' And then she turned and said to him in Aramaic, 'Rabboni,' which means teacher. Jesus said to her, 'Do not cling to me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father, but go to my brothers and say to them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God.' Mary Magdalene went and announced to the disciples, 'I have seen the Lord,' and that he had said these things to her." Imagine the sorrow that Mary must have been feeling here. I mean, he changed her life. She's not who she was. Everything's different in her life. What the life she lived out of desperation, maybe, out of possession, if you will, from our enemy. The life that she was chained to, bound to, and that she had no hope of escaping from. He set her free from all of that. And then he's gone. And even though it's only a short period of time, all the hope that she had built up, an account of hope, if you will, and placed in him, came to this crushing end. And she thought this was over. And then even his body is gone. Come on. You ever have those moments where you just feel like, come on, God, what more is there? What more can happen? What more can go sideways? I imagine this was kind of one of those types of times for Mary as well. And you may be there now even, like I've mentioned before, in the midst of some of the crazy that's going on in our world right now. You may feel like, what next? What news am I going to wake up to now, tomorrow? What's going to happen? And then Jesus may be speaking to us in the midst of some of the things going on, just like he's speaking to Mary. And as he's speaking to her, she doesn't necessarily recognize it's him initially. And I'm sure that's happened to me. I can't speak for you, but I'm sure it's happened to me where I felt like God is speaking to me in the middle of everything going on, and I don't recognize it as him. Just like Mary. I assume it's something else. I assume it's the gardener. Or not necessarily the gardener, but I assume it's just another voice in the chaos. And then all of a sudden he says it, and when my heart becomes aligned with an understanding that that is God, all of a sudden my hopelessness has life breathed into it, and I realize that he's speaking to me right in the midst of the chaos. I'm almost like in the eye of the tornado, and I hear the clarity of God speaking to me. I guess my challenge in this is, I hope you understand, a lot of times I'm speaking a challenge out of my own heart, out of what I've read in the scripture and not done a deep study of, but so maybe it touches you when it's a challenge for me, maybe, is this idea that I always want to hear what God has to say, because I do feel confident that whatever he has to say is about the best thing I can listen to. But the reality is, so often that I think I just mix his voice in with all the others. My prayer, my challenge is to make sure that his voice is heard more than all the others. There will never be a shortage of voices. But how do we make sure that we hear his? And I think it's just like with Mary, we're a little more in tune day by day with hearing who he is. And even when it seems like it's hopeless, or that his voice doesn't even speak into this matter, when we become in tune with him, slowly, maybe not initially, but slowly we become aware that that's his voice and that's who it is. So that's my challenge today. Maybe as we take time to pray, maybe as I take some time to pray about this, I would say, God, would you just make sure your voice is always the clearest voice that I hear? And whatever things I may have in my life, whatever chaos may be going outside, whatever voices may be speaking into my life, Lord, please, even if I don't feel like you would have a voice here, make sure that my ear isn't attuned to whatever you want to say. That's my challenge, and I encourage you to take time to pray about that. And as you do, I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow as we continue our journey through John.